Good afternoon, and welcome to this special edition Tribeca Festival of My Harlem Portraits, the show that aims at shedding the light on the fundamental contribution of African Americans to the building of this country and on Black excellence. To talk about Black excellence today, we have three very special guests. The directors and the producer of I Was Born This Way, a documentary that is just had its world premiere at Tribeca. The directors are Sam Pollard and Daniel Junge, and the producer, Mr. Wellington Love. Welcome to My Harlem Portraits.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having.
So, first thing I want to ask is the title, because for me, this movie was a fantastic discovery. I had never heard about Bean, and I never knew that there was an anthem. So, Sam or Daniel, because you were the two who started it, tell me, what is this title about?
I'll let
Well,
Daniel start off.
I actually think Wellington it would be great at describing what this title
Okay.
means in the literal sense, but also in the metaphoric sense.
Go ahead, Wellington.
The title "I Was Born This Way" really speaks to who Carl Bean was. He, from a very young age, knew that he was gay and he was unapologetic about it. And he sang about it. His whole life was led with this idea that I was born this way, that nothing was wrong with him, no matter the trauma, no matter the obstacle, no matter the struggle. He believed he was born this way, and that sentiment runs throughout everything in his life. From his AIDS advocacy to his spiritual journey, to the fact that he did this song. And so in a way, it was almost sort of destiny, I think, that he went on to do this song, I Was Born This Way, because he is the embodiment, of that idea.
This movie, as I said, it was really fantastic. And you start the movie with Billy Porter, who is visiting Chris Jones, whose mother, Bonnie, a beautician from Harlem, that's why it's so important, because this is my Harlem portrait, had written, I was born this way. And he goes there to get the master. So that's how you start the movie. So tell me, how did this movie come about, and how did this idea originate? What inspired you, both Daniel and Sam, to get on it?
Sure, this film originated with me. I was researching a series on protest music, and one of the central themes was going to be sex, and to me that meant Lady Gaga, which was really the sex and gender, the LGBTQ anthem of my generation. And in the process, I found that she was actually doing that as an homage to an earlier song and to the man who sang it. And that song was I Was Born This Way. So that song that story caught my attention. And when the series didn't happen, I eventually ended up digging in and finding out more about this man. He was in Los Angeles, where I lived, and was able to shoot the first interview. And within a year, brought on Sam and Wellington as my partners on the film.
So
Fantastic.
when Daniel reached out to me, Marie, and sent me the assembly that he had done of his interview with Carl Bean, I also had never heard about him. I never knew about
Really?
the song, quite honestly. No, I never heard about this man.
Wow.
So I was
Oh,
excited. I said, "Who is this guy?" And so, there was no question for me when Daniel asked me to come on board as a co-director. I said yes, and I've known him for many years, and he's a very, 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 very talented filmmaker. So I said, I need to get in bed with this gentleman because he's good. So it's been fun. And also getting to know Wellington now over these last 5 years has been also a great introduction to a producer I never knew about. And I'm glad that we're all on board now.
And you ask about the Harlem piece of it. That was not something we ever intended in the film. The film was going to be about Carl and this original version of the song, or the Motown version of this
Yeah.
song. There was actually an earlier version than that, which, we didn't intend to put in the film. But as we started doing interviews and realizing that that was not only for a more holistic story, but also a really surprising journey for us and for the audience, we ended up in Harlem, and that was never our anticipation.
You didn't know that. That's so fun. So no, none of us knew about this guy, and now you made this amazing, amazing documentary about him. So it's really, you are doing an incredible service to everybody to make this person know, because he has created a movement, really has created a movement. All right. And Wellington, why did you come on board?
I grew up in the South, Jacksonville, Florida. I was born in the mid 1965, and I came of age during the height of the AIDS crisis. I remember, the first news reports of GRID when I was 15 years old, thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna get this horrible disease and die just because I'm gay. And like Sam, I too didn't know anything. And then when I got the assembly, when it was meant to still be a short film, and it was just, this, I think like 40, it was like I don't know, 40-minute maybe assembly of Carl walking us through his life and his journey. And there was so much that I responded to. I spent time, in the church. I was an AIDS activist here in New York, in the late 80s. I was also making, short films and street art. And so was very, very aware of what it meant to sort of to be part of a sort of social justice movement. So all those things really spoke to my heart. And, I needed to be a part of, telling the story, because so many of my friends who were, who had sort of parallel sort of journeys also didn't know about Carl. And, now more than ever, we really need to know about, these heroes, these trailblazers, these, social justice warriors who are, doing the good work. So, and, if there was anything I could do to help tell that story, I wanted to do it.
Yeah, it's incredible, because that shows that the stories which are very important, they are hidden they're hidden. And we need people like you to go and discover. And you, Sam, you always do that, because every movie you do, I discover something. So it's
Thank
fantastic.
you.
How long did it take to make the film from concept to finish? I suppose Daniel and Sam. Go ahead.
6 years.
6 years.
And the best documentaries sometimes take that long.
Mhm.
And if you knew that going in, you would never do it. We always think we're going to make a film in a year, and some of them take this long. And I think this one actually benefits, I hate to say it, from that long gestation period.
Yes. Sam?
Yeah, I would wait and say it absolutely got better and better and better. It got more nuanced and much more layered. It became a really fleshed out, full piece of documentary filmmaking. And I think the addition of Billy Porter and the addition of Lady Gaga, all of these things didn't happen overnight. And
Dionne
Daniel is
Warwick.
yeah, and Daniel's tenacious. I mean, like a documentary filmmaker has to be. You never give up. You just keep pushing. And he didn't leave any stone unturned. And, I applaud his tenacity, his
Mhm.
stick-to-itiveness, and his ability to say, I'm going to get this film done, come hell or high water.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Sam.
I loved the animation. I think it's such a new and that kind of animation you use. So tell me why you chose the animation and what is technically so
Yeah,
inspirational about it.
sure. Well, technically, well, first of all, Sam and I have done plenty of historical films, and that always presents a dilemma because there's no footage, obviously, especially of these unknown stories. And so usually we have to do recreations, and we've all shot recreations, various forms of recreations. I'm not poo-pooing them. We'll do them again probably, but they have their limitations. And we just wanted a kind of a new way to bring history to life. And of course, plenty of people have used animation in as recreation in films, but often it's very impressionistic and crude. Some of that comes because of the nature of the budgets for animation, and it's so expensive. So, but we committed early on. Sam and I were both fans of Richard Linklater's rotoscoped films, Waking Life, Scanner Darkly, and other films, and we committed to this idea of using this process. Now it's very detailed. We have to shoot live action actors for every sequence, and then those are painstakingly hand animated on a computer. Not every frame, but nearly every frame. And then the backgrounds are recreated. The beauty of that is that when you have a period piece like this, you don't have to recreate the whole world. You can, the backgrounds are all created digitally. And so those three processes, recording the live actors, hand painting every frame, and then digitally creating the backgrounds, very long and involved and by our standards, expensive. So it was a commitment, but I appreciate hearing from you that it's paid off.
Fantastic. I found it, first of all, at first I didn't realize it was animation. The first two, and then I said, oh, this is beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Very beautiful. So I really commend that, and I'm sure that has given la ciliegina sulla torta, as we say in Italian, because it's fantastic. And Wellington, this is for you because one of the main problems was also finding money for the movie, right? So you come in because you committed to that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the fundraising aspect was a collaborative effort. Daniel was also very involved in that. But that was initially how I got involved because a fellow EP, my friend Josh Green, sent me the assembly, and at the time they were looking for what was then a nominal amount of money, basically just to put together a more polished edit. And as we got more and more into the story and Carl and realizing that there was just really no way we could do justice to his story in a 40-minute short, it meant that we had to continue to sort of fundraise so that we could build out the film. And thankfully, we had some early generous supporters. The film is entirely independently financed. We had no studio backing, no distribution backing, and mostly because people felt that Carl's story needed to be told. And we had our challenges over the years of raising money and fits and starts, but we were able to sort of keep the train going. Sometimes the engine slowed down a little bit, but yes, it's really the generosity of people who were inspired by Carl's story and saw the importance of telling it.
And apart from the money challenges, what are the other challenges that you've encountered during this? And when did you think we are going to make it now? Now we know we are going to make it. Well, what was that point?
Yeah.
I don't know. 3 weeks. I don't know. Daniel, what, like a month ago?
No, and I mean, we kid, but really it was a matter of months ago. It was probably early this year that we knew we had turned the corner. We actually got invited to Tribeca last year and had to turn them down because we couldn't finish the film. And so I think, and there was some question of whether we make it this year because that's just the nature of the beast. But it was early this year that we knew we were finally turned the corner and we're gonna make it. In terms of other challenges, I think all those celebrities in the film that you see were all gracious and so helpful, but they take time. You just have to wait for your moment for finally Questlove to come on board, finally Lady Gaga to come on board. And so that was, that's just a war of attrition. And and so the time that it took to make this film helped with that problem.
Yes, to have them on board. Do you have anything to add, Sam, to that? Challenges?
Well, listen, the challenge always with a documentary film is to figure out how to tell a story, to give it drama, to bring nuance to it. And we went through lots of versions of this cut, and there's lots of feedback, and that's always an important part of this process. And both of us, and Wellington included, we're all committed to making the best film possible, and when I saw it on the big screen, I hadn't seen it on the big screen ever, really. I just seen watching on my computer. I was amazed at how well done and well put together it was. I mean, when you mentioned the rotoscope, and there's two sequences that stand out for me that I love to watch.
Mhm.
The first one is when Carl is working in the department store, and he gets the call. And then we did this little montage where he keeps hanging up the phone, hanging up the phone. I loved it. I just thought that was fantastic. And the other sequence that really stands out for me is when he's in the recording studio, and the recording engineer is there telling him just sing the way you want it, and they do the song. It's just
And start
fantastic.
dancing.
Oh yeah, it's great. So it's special to see a film come together with so many different elements, to have both to have this wonderful interview with Carl. I was just talking to a person from Verve Records, from Mercury Records today, and she loved the film.
Oh,
And
that's
she
great.
was talking about the fact that here's a film that celebrates this man who tells us his story. And she said, this is the kind of documentary we're looking for, where a story is being told by one person. And Carl is a great storyteller.
Yes.
He's a
Great.
fantastic storyteller. So, this is one of these projects where this is why you make documentary films. You don't make them to get rich. You make them because there's some story that's important to tell, to open up the world to. And we've done that, and I applaud Daniel for finding this story of Carl Bean. I applaud Wellington for being a really damn good producer. And I'm glad I'm a part of this project.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Sam's in terms of the shape of the film, Sam is pretty brutal. If it's not earning screen time, cut. He is, and that's what you need as a documentary filmmaker. You need somebody in your camp we had some almost contentious discussions about some of that. And so every minute of this film has kind of gone through that Sam Pollard vetting process and had to earn its place on screen. And I appreciate that, Sam.
Thank you.
Well, as I said, I interview Sam many times because at Tribeca, he always brings some incredible stuff. And the first time that I interviewed you, it was at New York Doc
Oh, okay.
years ago. So every time you do something, I say, I want to see whatever is done. I want to interview that.
Thank you, Rick.
I'm
Hey,
sorry if you hear the sirens here. We're in DC and they're prepping for
The parade tomorrow?
for Trump's birthday parade.
Yeah.
oh my God, I don't want to hear that. Thank God we can't hear them. I have eliminated him from my life.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna ask all of you, this is something personal. Making this movie, did that change your perspective on faith, homosexuality, and other specific issues? Because there is a very important part of this movie to me is the difference between religion, spirituality, and faith, and using the Bible in a different way. Very important to me.
I have a thought on that, and that is I was raised Catholic, and I've fallen away from the church, but I have made two films involving Catholicism, and now this film involving a non-denominational church, and all of them show what religion can be. Religion can, as you see, even in this film, can be used as a tool of oppression. But when it's at its best, it's uplifting people, it's bringing them together, and it's fighting for the least of us. And when I'm reminded of in terms of my other two films, Catholicism and now this other church, when I'm reminded that that's what Christ spoke about, and that some people are actually walking that walk, I'm less dismissive and I'm more engaged with Christianity or religion in general.
Thank you.
You know, I grew up in a Pentecostal church, and watching the film and watching some of the sermons that Carl Bean does in the film reminded me of my upbringing in the Pentecostal church. And you know, I believe in spirituality, and I think that really comes through front and center with this film. And
Yes.
it's I'll be honest with you, Maria, in these sort of very difficult times, to be able to watch a film about a man who had such a sense of spirituality and optimism about life with all the challenges that he faced, both personally and probably professionally, it's it's so invigorating. It's such a good feeling. And then the response of the audience last Thursday to the premiere was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Now, I know this was an audience that was sort of Carl Bean focused, but it didn't matter. It was fantastic. It was really fantastic. And it was that kind of feeling, it's what we call in the Pentecostal church the call and response. You know, somebody says something and there's response, and it was fantastic. I mean, you can't do any better than that when you had an audience responding to the stuff they're hearing and seeing on the screen. It was great.
Fantastic. Wellington.
I spent my youth, in the church, and I had some great experiences from, Sunday school, summer camp, all those things, and made great friends. And it was a way for people to gather socially and do community work. But then, of course, as I got older, and, really started to sort of not be able to kind of reconcile, some of the things I knew about, faith and being gay. And at a certain point, it was easier for me. I want to say easier, but I felt I had to make some sort of decision almost about, am I going to continue in this practice when there's so much about it that, excludes me and excludes people like me. And what is great about Carl, and I've said this a number of times now, I wish I had known about him when I was, because he was doing that work right as I was, sort of struggling with this, this conflict. But having been a part of this film now and sort of seeing what he did and how open he was, and and even getting to know some of the Unity people, and just seeing this sort of just the power of his message, and regardless of your denomination, regardless of your relationship or belief, Carl believed love is for everyone. And I think that is something, regardless of, whether you're agnostic, atheist, practicing Catholic or not, that's something that we all need to embrace now. And so that has been, I learned that those things can coexist. I learned that those things can coexist. And
Yes.
I'm grateful to Carl for that.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same thing from this movie. Exactly that. So one thing that also really I thought was important, really important what you were saying, is that thanks to Carl, Maxine Waters got to know him, and she became so interested in what he was doing that she brought that to the Congress, and she managed to get Clinton to get funds for the AIDS crisis. So tell us a little bit about that, because he he was spiritual and transforming spirit people inside, but he also transformed society. He
Yes.
created law. That's very important.
Well, that may feel like a construction of the film, but in fact, that was surprising to me, is that the ways that these cathartic moments in history that this relatively unknown man had an effect on. Maxine, you see Bill Clinton signing this bill that Maxine Waters promoted, and she did it because she says very clearly she did it because of Carl. You see Dionne Warwick, who we know had a life of AIDS activism, saying she did it. You see she did it because of Carl. You see Lady Gaga and this incredible anthem that most of us know and very clearly attributes it to Carl and his earlier song. So that it seems like a construction of the film, but all these people willingly came forward and participated and said, because of that man, I did this thing that you know about, which was pretty surprising.
Yes, it's very, very important. Sam, what you want to say about that?
I think Daniel said it. I don't have anything to add.
Another thing that I thought it was really amazing is how his life was so difficult. I mean, he lost his mom, got pregnant, 13, left it with parents. The godparents rejected him when they found out he was gay. In the hospital, in a mental hospital, he meets his mom again, his biological mom. They become close, and then she dies. I mean, his life was so tragic, and he's able to give such a positive message, as you were saying, Sam. And you brought this out so well to the audiences. One sentence to each, what you want the audiences to take away from this. And then I say goodbye.
I would say simply this, that life is always full of challenges, and it's, you got to really tip your hat to the fact that Carl Bean overcame those challenges with such optimism.
Yeah, I don't think that the triumphs of the film and the triumphs of Carl are really. I think you need to see what he went through to get there, and that's what we've tried to do as filmmakers. And I think that it would have been too easy just to show the triumphs without the pitfalls.
Thank you.
And I think we have to embrace the title. And again, no matter who you are, gay, straight, black, white, embrace that you were born this way, whatever that means.
And that is one of the most difficult things to do for everything, I think. When really loving yourself is something that you have to, at least as far as I'm concerned, it's a everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. So thank you again. Thank you for your time. Congratulations for the movie. Best for everything. And we want to see it at least on PBS. We want to see this movie on. Okay?
Thank you.
Everybody has to see this movie because it's wonderful.
Thank you, Marie.
Thank you,
Maria.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day.
Bye.